Welcome back. This is Dan Havey with CFninjaHacks, and today we're going to go back to the accordion funnel that we built out in the last video and go through a couple of things. There's really two reasons why I'm redoing this video. The first one is because I actually made a mistake on some of the code in the first one, and I want to step in here and correct that and show how to fix that. But the other thing is I didn't really show a lot of the different ways that you can trick this thing out. So I just wanted to come in here and go through it again and show you a couple of things that you can do. So let's look at what we have up here at the top part. So I went through how we have this set up. These are all just headline elements, and we'll just open it up as a headline element, but I got to go into the editor first. And so it's just text, and then here we have a hyperlink and the icon right there. We put that in as an icon under the advanced settings. And we just come down and we put the icon in right here in the icon picker tool. And then what we do here is, I'll show you this as long as we're on the page here, we put in a hyperlink. So we hyperlink all of the text and we put in this code up here, and I'll get back to that in a second. So that when you click on this button, this turns upside down, the icon turns upside down, and the text slowly kind of scrolls in from the left side, and then it goes in and out. Right now I have that text set as 1500 milliseconds or 1.5 seconds that it will scroll in and out of the side. Now how we do this is by clicking on this hyperlink. We're going to actually be firing a JavaScript function. And so here's the code right here. It starts off with JavaScript : and then we have a function by the name of show content1, and inside of the parentheses and inside of the quote marks, we have the number 1 right there. And so if we go into our tracking code, we have right here function show content1, and we have FAQ1. So we pass that 1 in the link in here as a variable, and it gets picked up as FAQ1. Then what we say is we say data title equals content dash. And what that is I will open up the elements. See, we have all of the text elements here hidden. And so you see here, this is called content-1, content-2, etc. down the line. So if we go back into our tracking code, we're going to see here content dash plus FAQ1. So this would be content 1. And we want to toggle this as 1,000 milliseconds. I said 1,500 a second ago, but it is 1,500 milliseconds. So let's take this down. Let's take this down to, let's say, 500 milliseconds, and then we will save it, and we will reload the page, and then we will see it should go a little bit faster. And because we unhid the element, of course, it's going to be showing here, but as we toggle on it, it's going to go in and out in half a millisecond, or half a second, I should say. Now you can make that a lot faster. We could come back into our tracking code and we could say, let's not do it in half a second, let's do it instantly. So we will turn that on and we will save, and let's just preview it this time. And now as we click on this, it just instantly pops it in and out. But again, I'm not a real huge fan of it just being so harsh and drastic like that. So maybe if you want to just make it go in and out just a little bit, we'll go back into the tracking code and let's make it 200. Now, the mistake I had made in the last video was I had quotes around the numbers in here, and you don't need the quotes in there. If you put quotes around it, it basically kills anything that's in here, and it defaults to 400 milliseconds. And that's why I thought all along, because I had it set at 500 milliseconds and it was running at 400 milliseconds, I figured it was working just fine, and actually I had an error there. So then the second line of code here says take FAQ-1 now, because FAQ1 is now 1 because we loaded that in. It says take that number, and then we're going to toggle our class of caret up, which again, you've seen that a million times now, where the caret turns upside down. And that's really pretty much the same for every one of these as we trigger, we toggle that class of caret up. And again, you saw that in the last video, but if you don't recall, it was right here, caret up, and we do a transform on it, and we rotate it 180 degrees. So let's save this at the 200 milliseconds and reload the page and see how that looks. So it's not quite as abrupt. It comes in from the left and goes out. Now, if we go back to, let's say, the 1,000 milliseconds, and we look at that image, and there are some cases where we may want to still use this in order to be able to slide that image in and out. So we'll come down to number 3 and click on that, and you see the image sliding out over 1 second. And that's kind of a cool effect, and it would run probably a little bit faster, except that I'm recording it right now, and so it's a little jerky as well. So now let's go back into the code, and the first thing we can do is we can hide this element right here again by clicking on that eyeball. So now let's take a look at the second set of elements we have. And again, what I did here is I did the same thing as up on top, and I used the link with the JavaScript code in it. So let's take a look at that in the tracking code to begin with. And so that's right down here, 6 through 8, and I'm calling this rows because what I did is up here, these were 2 separate elements all inside of one row. So up on the top part here, we actually had 6 elements, 3 of which were headlines, 3 of which were the paragraph elements, all inside of one row. But what I wanted to do was to build it out so that each one of these elements here was a row, and then inside of that row, we set up the other 2 elements. Let me see right here. So inside of the row, then we put in the text element and we put in the paragraph element, and then that way I could put a box around the outside here and I could do some styling to that box. So let's close that again and go back into the tracking code. So again, we have the same thing here. We pass in the variable of number 2, and then we have content-2, and I'm sorry, it wouldn't be content-2, it would be 6. So in this case here, actually, let me just show you what the link is itself. So we click on that, we open up the hyperlink, and we go here, show content-2, which is the function name, and then I pass the variable of 6 in, so that when it comes in here, it's going to say content-6, and then FAQ-6, and so then it will just affect the elements inside of this row. And now again here, we're changing it up, and we're going to do what is known as a slide toggle, and what that does is just like toggling the class or toggling in general, where it's going to do a hide or show. A slide toggle is going to do the same thing, where it's going to do a hide or show, but instead of coming in from the left side like it does on the toggle, this is going to slide up or down. So every time you toggle this thing, is going to, the first time you toggle it, if it's not showing already, it'll toggle down or slide down, and then it will slide back up again. So let's go back into the page itself. Let's click on it and let's see what happens. So it just toggles itself up and down, and I think that's a nice way, especially once we have it inside of this row. And then, of course, again, the icon itself rotates. And now you see that we did a little bit of coloring there, so let's just go look at the CSS. And all we did there is we just said data title of anything that is or contains FAQR, which all of these boxes do. We want to put on a border left of 5 pixels, and then we want to have the border radius so that just the 2 left side, left top and left bottom, are rounded, and the other 2 on the right hand side are square. And I think I had that incorrectly done in the first video as well. And then I say here again, anything FAQR, and has the I tag, which would be, again, of course, these icons here will have that I tag. We want those to be colored red as well. So now let's go back into our funnel and let's go down to the third section. And the little bit of changes I made here is as you come in on your hover, it turns it black, and then the color of the text turns white, and then also the caret here will also turn white. But you'll notice as I come in and out that it doesn't do it white automatically on the caret, because again we have the I tag, we have some CSS on that saying that it needs to do a translate or a transition over half a second, and let's go look at that. So we do a transition over half a second, so it takes it half a second to go from the black to the white as it's changing the color. And again, all the hover and the color change is right in here. So on number 4 and 5, we're going back to the code that we were looking at yesterday, and again we're saying so anything that contains FAQ2, which would be number 4 and 5 down here, I called them both FAQ2. Again, the L headline element, we want to append that caret. And then here again, we got this toggling for 1500 seconds. And so let's go look at that. So you click on it and it just comes in real slow from the left. And again, that's not necessarily the greatest thing. Let's change this back down to 500 and we will save that. And then we will preview that page. So then as we click on it here, it should come in and out in just half a second. And the page wasn't quite loaded yet when I clicked on it. So it comes in, and again, it just kind of slides in from the left, kind of has a cool effect. But what I'm really showing you here is so you got that effect where you can slide in from the left, or you got the effect where you can do the slide up and down on the slide toggle. So then let's go back into the tracking code, and let's take a look at that. So that the next ones down here, 10 through 12, that's where I have the slide toggle. So let's just click on that to begin with, and then I'll show you something else I did there. So we click on this, and one of the things you notice is it's going to go all the way up to the top, and I'll get to that in a second. But again, here we have the slide toggle, and let's see what kind of time did I have set on that. I had a second on that, so let's change that back down to 500 milliseconds and save the page and preview it. And so we'll scroll down on the page, we will click, and you can click anywhere in here, it doesn't have to be on the letters. We'll click anywhere in here, and half a second it will slide down and our icon will rotate. But now let's go back in here, and what I did here differently is these are all actually buttons, and let's go to the second one. And a couple things you can do, of course, you can come in here, you can change everything on it, but let's just do this, let's just change the theme. And let's just go with this theme right here, which when you do that, it automatically makes it thin again. It makes it fluid, I think they call that. Yeah, that's fluid. And so we're going to go back to a fill width on that. And we can, of course, change the corners. Let's say we want 15 pixels on the corners, and everything else you can change in here as far as box shadow and all the rest of it. But here was the real kicker with this. I said in the last video that you could use buttons in here, but I didn't test it. And so then I was talking with someone the other day, and they were trying to do this with a button, and we ran into a couple of problems. And one of the things was if you come in here, I thought what you could do is come in here and set the URL is normally a hashtag right here. But what would happen is if it was, well, in fact, let's just do this. Let's put in the hashtag, and we will save that, and then we'll preview it again. So if we click on the one that has a hashtag on it, what it does is it scrolls you to the top of the page every time. Now, if you got your FAQs all the way down at the bottom, you don't want to be getting jammed up to the top every time you click on this thing. So I knew that that wasn't going to work. So I thought, well, let me see here. I know that the hashtag is always going to want to go to the top of the page. So I thought, well, let's just take everything out of here and save it like that. But when I clicked on it then, what it does is it opens it up, but then it reloads the page. So obviously that was not a solution either, is to have this reload the page every single time. So what I came up with was saying that whenever you click on any of these buttons, if you're going to use them for your FAQ, if you're going to click on the button, what it's going to do is it wants to scroll to the top of this row right here. So we're going to set our action, and we're going to come down and we're going to scroll to row, and we're going to say which row did we want. We want our buttons row is what I called it. I just called it buttons. And so now whenever somebody clicks on one of these FAQs, it will scroll the FAQ section up to the top of the screen. And I figured that was really the best solution of anything at all. So we click on number 10, and then it's going to pop us up to the top. And if we come back down here again, let's say we click on number 12, again, it's going to take us back up to the top of our button section right here. And so that is it. I was playing around with a little something down here as far as using border radiuses to make an image like this, and then put a little bit of a border around it and then an outline, but that's just something I'm working on for another day. So let me go back into the code. I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. Mostly how you can set this up by using a JavaScript function and passing a variable in, how we can use the toggle function, and actually let's make this half a second. You can use the slide toggle as well. And again, this is pretty much what I showed you in the last video. And the only thing else I did down here is I had to put in FAQ2 and FAQB here with an I tag afterwards. I'm not sure if I had that in last time, but again, that is what takes that caret and moves it over to the right-hand side, right down here, and in both of these lower sections right there. So that is it for this. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. And until next time, have a great day.